everyone agrees with everyone else. There are no visible protests. The dissidents movement have been put down. The economy is functioning, as you said, badly but not catastrophically. People are adapting. They have not been used to any very beneficial economic conditions, so they are adapting. But the machine is not processing the decisions. The orders are not implemented. This is the late Soviet situation. I am not saying that we are there. We are not. The machine is resilient enough. We've seen it adapting to very extreme circumstances, which it has created for itself during the last 4 years. But I think that especially during the last year and a half, it has come to test the limits of its resilience, to test the limits of its adaptability. And what I'm, again, specifically looking at is the way it's eating itself. Okay. In, for example, repressing in rather major way, not just civil society and its people, but its nomenclatura, the elites. Arresting them, confiscating their assets, generally making their lives miserable without any possibility of escape. There is no exit strategy. The country is isolated, so people who are in power cannot possibly step down. This seems to me to be the major threat, rather than Russia running out of money. As far as I understand, wars are not over when the last dollar or the last ruble is spent or the last soldier is killed. Wars end when the systems can no longer sustain them, or think they can no longer sustain them.
Okay, the machine eating itself, so to say, in a way.
I don't know if it's a realistic metaphor.
Yeah. But nevertheless, an interesting thought. Maria Stenegard, you have a two-point plan. You came up with the two-point plan, meaning strengthening Ukraine and weakening and deterring Russia. What is Sweden doing better than the rest of us?
Oh, I wouldn't say we're better than the rest of you, but we do a lot. In the Nordics and the Baltics, we do a lot. So last year, we provided 1/3 of the total military support provided by all of NATO to Ukraine, and that is not enough. So I'm not saying that the Nordics and the Baltics should do less. I'm saying that everyone else could do a lot more. So we could have this war end already. And the other part is, of course, increasing the pressure on Russia. And there is a lot more to be done. I'm quite frustrated, I must say. Finland and Sweden, we proposed for this 20th sanctions package, a full maritime services ban on all Russian energy for all the vessels going out from Russian ports.
Because energy is
the main source of income for the Russian war economy. And yet the proposal is only on oil, and we should wait for the G7. Now, we don't have time to wait. We must be in the front, and then others hopefully will be able to follow, because we need to be as many as possible to put this pressure. And then we should stop the imports of fertilizers. It's the third biggest import we have to the EU, and there are other ways of finding fertilizers. So I'm quite frustrated, I must say.
Senator Graham, how frustrated are you when it comes to sanctioning Russia?
Well, number one,
especially when you look at your president.
Your opening statement was pretty frustrating. That somehow Trump's the problem here. Really? The world order you want to hang on to? How well has that worked? Putin's invaded, what, 3 times? Nothing Europe has done in the past has deterred Putin. And quite frankly, nothing we did in the past deterred Putin. Your approach to Iran is just give it more money. So I'm glad that world order is fading, because it's a complete failure. Now, what will work? What does Putin want? How many people believe he wants to take all of Ukraine? You know who said that? Trump. He wants it all. This is a war based on a guy who wants to reconstruct the past, who has got a view that Ukraine does not deserve to exist, and he's not going to stop until somebody stops him. So you got a 2-point plan, great. It ain't working. I told the administration that if you want to end this war, you got to get China involved in this war. So we went and talked to the Chinese ambassador. You buy cheap Russian oil. Well, it's not going to be so cheap anymore. Trump put a 25% tariff on India for buying Russian oil. Before the war, they were buying 3%. Then it went up to 30% after the war. Trump put tariffs, now it's going back. So I've got a bill with Dick. The sanctions, fine. It hasn't changed the behavior we're desiring to change. Putin will be, he doesn't care how many of his people die, right? He just wants to hang around. Well, his customers need to care about propping up this war machine. You know, the Chinese told me, well, what's China all about? Three things: harmony, moderation, and family. I said, well, you're going to have a hard time selling people in Ukraine that China's into harmony. Without China, he would be out of business. Without Brazil and without India, he would be out of business. So we've got a bill, 85 co-sponsors. You know how hard it is to get 85 senators to agree on anything? Putin's done more to bring us together in the Senate than anybody in America. I'd give him the NATO Man of the Year award if he would come and get it. Bottom line is, two things I want to do. I want to give Tomahawks. I want the U.S. to supply Tomahawks to reach out and hurt the infrastructure that he counts on to build the drones and all the other stuff. I want to change the military equation. Secondly, I want to pass our bill, and I want to give President the tools to go to these major countries and say, you're propping up a killing machine. You want to have a normal relationship with the United States? Act normal. It's not normal for a country to take the worst people on the planet and buy their oil cheap and think they're good global citizens. Venezuela, Iran, and now Russia. China's their biggest purchaser. So I'd like to have a better relationship with China. Well, if you don't change your behavior, you're going to run into a real pushback in America. You're not normal. You're buying cheap oil at the expense of a lot of people losing their lives and their family. Some breaking news. This is from Leader Thune. There's broad bipartisan support for increasing the pressure on Russia, its leaders, its economy that is continuing to fuel its year-long war machine. Leader Thune committed to bringing our bipartisan bill to the floor as soon as it is clear that there are sufficient votes to pass it in the United States Senate and be signed by the President. There are sufficient votes to pass the bill. So get it to the floor. Let's vote. Senator Blumenthal has been terrific. I got people on the bill before Trump said he was for it. Dick is getting people to help Trump, which is like the most radioactive thing you could do as a Democrat. The point is that we're working together for a common cause. I went to Saudi Arabia and Jerusalem 8 times trying to help Biden normalize between Saudi Arabia and Israel. I was told Republicans, don't let Trump do that. No, do it if you can. So to my Democratic colleagues who want to give President Trump tools to end this war, thank you. Because when the war ends, it ends in a way that Taiwan is not taken by China. If we sell out Ukraine, there goes Taiwan. If we get this right, where security guarantees prevent a third invasion, and he'll come back until somebody makes him stop, we have a free, independent, standing Ukraine. NATO is bigger, NATO is stronger. Ukraine's got the best military in Europe and will continue to have that military, and there are security guarantees, unlike Budapest, then we can end this war honorably and justly. You're not going to get every Russian out. You got to deal with the reality on the ground, but how you end this war will affect the entire world for decades to come. To Senator Blumenthal, thank you for doing something that's hard. Our bill allows President Trump to put tariffs on any country buying Russian energy or doing business with Russia. That's not helping Ukraine. He can go from 0 to 500 and go back down, and it expires after 3 years. So thank you, Dick.
Senator Blumenthal, how confident are you that this bill imposing tariffs of 500%,
up to
500%, how confident are you that this will pass and that President Trump really will support it?
I believe we're going to have the votes.
Yeah, overwhelming.
And as Senator Graham has said so well, for any measure of importance to have 85 co-sponsors is rare to the point of unique. And I want
Makes me wonder about the bill.
I want to salute Senator Graham You know, the two of us started coming to Munich with John McCain. I am in the John McCain wing of the Democratic Party.
Okay.
And I think Senator McCain would be proud of this bill and of our effort to bring members on both sides of the aisle together at a time when members of both of our parties are increasingly isolationist. We have seen in history, in this very place, what happens to appeasement. And we need to be resolved and resolute. Yes, Putin's economy is not good, but Putin is a murderous thug. Stalin starved the Ukrainians. We know the history. Putin is trying to freeze and murder them by bombarding them with missiles and drones. It is a crime against humanity and a time of moral clarity. And that's why I think we will come together for this bill. Let me just make a couple of more points. Europe has been at the forefront, at the tip of the spear. And I want to give a thanks to all of the European nations that are in the coalition of the willing. We met with them in Rome. Senator Graham and I have been partners in this effort. Europeans have helped to lead by example, upping and stepping up in terms of their resources. More to be done. And yes, the United States needs to do more too. We need to increase our industrial capacity to provide the Tomahawks and the interceptors for Patriot systems, a slew of military aid. If we do it, if we show our resolve, Putin's economy can't survive forever. He is counting on stalling and stonewalling us, playing to the weakness of democracies. We all know democracies are messy. You know, we tolerate dissent in democracy. We don't lock up our critics. We don't silence them. And that's what makes democracies great. Winston Churchill said, America always does the right thing after trying everything else.
Yeah.
We don't have the luxury of time, and we don't have the luxury of despair or withdrawal. And that's why I so appreciate Senator Graham's leadership, because he talked about my stepping forward. Well, he has stepped forward in a very courageous way in his party, in the United States Senate. And in addition, I know you want me to finish.
No, not at all. Only
in addition,
we want
finally, let me
space for
say,
questions.
We want to declare Russia a state sponsor of terrorism because it's kidnapping children, 20,000 kids. Can you imagine 20,000 children abducted, put in re-education camps or foreign or foster families? We want to seize Russian assets, to use those hundreds of billions of dollars to finance not only the war, but reconstruction of Ukraine. We want to use the minerals, the wealth of Ukraine, develop it so that it provides incentives, economic incentives for investment there by companies from your countries and ours that at the end of the day will be a source of security for Ukraine. Because if Putin tries again, and we all know he will, they're going to be killing Americans and Brits and French and Danes. And one final point here. This is a lovely setting. It's warm. There is food everywhere. You're going to go to bed tonight in a bed where you'll sleep well. Ukrainians are dying. Ukrainians are freezing. Ukrainians are going without food. Ukrainians at the front are trying to ward off swarms of drones. Ukrainians were told by our military maybe they could last 3 weeks in that initial onslaught. 3 weeks. Our military told the President of the United States, it's over. And when they offered Zelensky a ride out on a helicopter, he said, don't send a helicopter, send ammunition. That is Ukraine. We ought to all be inspired and grateful that Ukraine is fighting our fight. They are fighting and dying to preserve our democracy, and we owe it to them to give them what they need to push the Russians back.
Ukraine's ambassador to Sweden, I want to say a few words about the reality on the ground. Today, US decreased financial support to Ukraine by 99% comparatively to last year. Your Excellencies, your bill, which I grateful for your leadership, is not voted. And you, dear Lindsey Graham, was talking about this bill last year in Munich during the Munich Security Conference. Frozen assets that Senator Blumenthal has mentioned, unfortunately, are sitting in Brussels and haven't been supported as a means to support Ukraine's fight. Tomahawks that have been promised here in Germany to be sent to Ukraine during the elections, unfortunately, are not flying, right? They are not given to Ukraine. And at the same time, my best friend has +5 in her apartment with 2 kids, and my nanny for 4 weeks didn't have heating with -26 Celsius, and I will not continue. But the question is, don't you think you've said that you will not support the agreement which Ukraine doesn't support itself? But the question is, does Ukraine have today all the means to achieve the agreement that will be possible for Ukrainian citizens to support and for you to support yourself? So when all those measures that you've mentioned will be given to Ukraine to achieve that achievement? Thank you.
Yeah, it's taken a long time. But let me say this, I'm proud of what my country's done for Ukraine. We gave you javelins early on. I'm proud of what Europe's done. You stepped up to the occasion. So Ukraine's going to have to make a hard decision. You're not going to evict every Russian. So what I want to do is make sure the deal doesn't lead to a third invasion, that you're an independent, sovereign country still standing. I'm sorry it's not fast enough, but there are a lot of people in America that are conflicted about this. A lot of people wondering, what are we doing? So I'm doing my best to explain it to them. You're doing your best to fight. I've had a lot of engagements with allies who are less than spectacular when it came to sacrificing. I will say this, Ukraine has sacrificed as much for their freedom as any country on the planet since World War II.
And I might just add, you know, you're focusing on the last year, but I'm speaking now for myself. When I first came to the Senate, and I was on the Armed Services Committee, which was in 2010, a number of us, including John McCain, were advocating that we do more for Ukraine. That was when Barack Obama was president. I advocated, and so did Senator Graham, more aid to Ukraine under Senator Biden, under President Biden, under President Trump. This effort has been a long-standing one, and it isn't going to be done overnight. We need to be persistent, and we don't have the luxury of despair or abandonment. We need to be persistent, and all of you have seen in your own lifetimes that in America and in your countries, there are groups of people who want to withdraw, who want to engage in isolationism. Fortress America. Again, appeasement before World War II was not just Neville Chamberlain. It was a group in America who thought everything would be okay, and elsewhere in the world. So this is a constant feature of our history, but now is the time to show our mettle. I think we are at a critical moment. I'm glad we're talking about Russia because Putin is on his heels economically. He's running out of recruits. His war economy is sputtering. The price of oil is down. His revenue from oil is down. We shouldn't underestimate the hand that we have to play.